Can it just be that most of the times we just run away from our deepest fears? Get ready with me while I drink my tea, peppermint. Mm. And whilst we talk about facing our fears, a lot of people just say in your face, you know, step into your fears and look them in the face and just be strong enough to face it. But let's be a bit more deeper with it, shall we? Now, if you know me, you know that I don't really have a big makeup routine, like a 20-minute makeup routine. My makeup routine always takes me like 5 minutes. Let's talk about facing our fears. It's not a topic that a lot of us like because we all pretend to be like fearless, or either we pretend to be fearless or we pretend to have conquered our fears, but actually we're still running away from them. And I want to start off by saying that having fears is human. It's almost normal to be fearful of potential threat because it is in our nature to be aware of our environment and of potential danger, as back then our ancestors were hunters and were living in constant survival. They had to, look out for themselves. They did not have advanced technology. They didn't have a anything, if they're being attacked, they're going to be attacked and die. So we still have that within us, the survival instinct. So as soon as our body senses potential threat, whether it be physical threat, whether it be emotional threat, or whether it be mental threat, we go into fight or flight mode, or we freeze. Yeah, actually, there's fight, flight, but I would say you have to include freezing as well, because sometimes we just freeze up because of fear and get paralyzed because of fear. Most of the times, we're not aware of emotional threats because we think danger is physical attacks that we see with our physical eyes. But sometimes, for example, let's say family. Family is pretty vulnerable to a lot of people because family is very near and dear to our hearts, no matter how great your relationship with your family is or not. Either way, like I would say, even if your family relationships aren't that great, then you will be even more anxious and more cautious about your family because the potential that your family can hurt you is way higher than, you know, not because you're having a good relationship with them. So wherever you feel a threat, you are more tensed, or you tend to run away because you you flight, or fight, or yeah, or you fight, or you fight back. Because sometimes, some people tend to get angry. Sometimes people tend to burst out. That's their fighting mechanism. Sometimes we should not even be mad at people when they react the way they do, because it's actually just their body responding to fear or threat. Back to my beginning phrase of saying that we are, yeah, just not facing our fears because we don't know how, and it's fearful, it's vulnerable. Like, who are you going to talk to? How are you going to tackle it? Because most of the times, our fears, we need to tackle them. Like, you cannot just go to someone and be like, get the fear out of me. Like, people can help you, but it starts with yourself. And honestly, on this account, I'm always going to be very honest because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is going to be hard. You are going to fear. Your body is going to react. Your body will either fight or flight or freeze, but either way, facing your fears is so important for your personal development. If you do not confront your fears, you will always be stuck in a version of yourself that you're not, that you can outgrow, but you choose to stay in the constant fear mode. And fear looks different. Fear can look like staying in your comfort zone. Fear can look like, oh, thinking you're a victim and you're not going to grow because you're like, this is how I always used to be, so I'm just going to stay like this. That is fear. The root of it is fear. Many behaviors that we have, if we really check the roots of them, we will find out that they are fear driven, they're fear based. But because no one really talks about fear, we're just overlooking it and we're just thinking, oh, that's just the way I am, make it a behavior and just not grow. For me, it's an insult if you know you are lacking somewhere or you are aware that you can grow somewhere, but you're not because you're fearful. That is disrespectful to yourself because life is short. And why should you just be a limited version of yourself because you're afraid of facing your fears? Another example, this is personal, but um, for example, my mom, I had a conversation with her, and she grew up in, it really breaks my heart, in an environment where her dad was really tough on her and everyone screamed at her because she was like more shy and a bit more slower, perhaps even insecure. And that led to her being fearful of like when people scream at her. And I have to say, my nature, if I'm impatient, I'm impatient. And sometimes I'm just like talking in a tone that is disrespectful and just a no, especially towards your mom. And we had a conversation, and she said, I just get triggered when people scream at me. I just freeze or flight. She just runs away or she freezes. And as she said that, I cried and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Looking back and seeing, okay, that makes sense. That's why she always acts like this. And because she always experienced people like yelling at her because she's a bit more slower or doesn't get it right away, she constantly feeds this fear and thinks, oh, something's wrong with me, so I'm gonna just stay in this victim mentality. That is so heartbreaking. That really is heartbreaking because you really don't have to. Okay, last but not least. I feel like my brow is not it. Like, oh no, that always happens. It's not giving, right? Like the brow is not giving. I don't know. Like I just uh, struggle with my brows ever since like I don't know, had a brow lift, but I know it's okay. It's decent. It's decent. So this is just your sign because I'm talking for 10 minutes already to be aware of your fears and to not stay in them only because in your mind it's legit to stay in them. So face your fears, even though you might be really scared of them. Thank you for listening.